I want to welcome today's audience to our webinar on rural communities can get a gigabit. We are very, very pleased you can join the webcast. I'm Steve Ross, Editor-at-Large at Broadband Communities, and I'll be your moderator today. Inexpensive, reliable, and easy-to-install gigabit V and E-band wireless equipment has touched off a mini boom in serving residential and business customers up to about 2 miles from a fiber trunk. And Google really ratified that approach by buying a company called Webpass 3 weeks ago. Webcast serves urban office complexes and also multi-tenant residential buildings, some quite small. Now, even newer equipment extends that reach to 10 miles, making it more useful in rural areas as well. This approach improves the business case for fiber to the home and is cheap enough to temporarily extend or fill in gaps in fiber deployments. It can also be left in place as a backup when fiber is eventually installed. The webinar discusses 3 key issues: capacity, reliability over fairly long wireless loops, and of course financing. Today's webcast is designed to be interactive. You can participate in the Q&A session by asking questions at any time during the presentation. And all you need to do is type your question into the Ask a Question text area to the right of your screen. The slide deck and a full recording of the webinar will be made available. Discussing today's topic will be Boris Mazel. He's Director of Business Development at Siklu Communication. Siklu has about a third of this market right now, and in fact Webpass, just bought by Google, is a Siklu customer, so I guess now Google is a Siklu customer. Boris, the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you, Steve, and I'm glad to start this webinar when we are going to talk about the connectivity solution that combines millimeter wave and can provide multi-gigabit capacity for long-haul distances up to 10 miles. So how the broadband is delivered today and what the challenges are in delivering broadband capacity for rural Americans. All in all, 40% of rural Americans lack broadband, and the 20% broadband as defined by the FCC, and 20% lack even basic access of 4 megabits down and 1 megabit up. On the other hand, the adoption of the broadband in rural and urban areas seems to be the same, so the demand is there, but the solution is not. And the challenges for this problem probably related to long distances, related to the installation, and fiber costs that associated with these builds. So at this point, I'd like to get a better feeling of the audience, to get a better perspective of who I'm talking to, and so please enter your job title and the industry sector here, and we'll continue with the slides. So the agenda for the webinar today is to talk about how to deliver multi-gigabit capacity to the rural areas, how to deal with the distance challenges, or how to gap this distance barrier, and how to help with the financing of those solutions. So we are going to talk in details about all those 3 topics. When the fiber is not available, the only technology that is capable of delivering multi-gigabit capacity is the millimeter wave.
Boris, let me break in for a moment. I've been watching the poll numbers. About 20% are community activists or heavy broadband users, typically business users. 8% are elected public officials. 14% are hired public officials, economic development, mayors, city council people, that sort of thing. 22% work for existing rural service providers, and 54% list themselves as other. I know from looking at the list ahead of time that a lot of these are consultants in the field. So you've got a sophisticated audience here, but don't test the technology too much. Keep to how we've been doing. Okay, I'm going to now officially close the poll. Okay, and you're back on, Boris.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. So when the fiber is not available, the only technology that can actually provide a multi-gigabit capacity is millimeter wave wireless technology that can be fastly deployed due to its registration and licensing schemes, and it provides lowest cost for megabit per second, which is also very important for rural deployments. I'll give you a short background about the wireless technology. So basically, there are three frequency bands. The first I'm starting from left to right. This is the first and the most famous, I think, frequency band is the sub-6 gigahertz band, which is usually used for access. You're probably familiar with that from your wireless phone or Wi-Fi. Another frequency band, which is called the traditional microwave or the microwave band, which is 6 to 42 gigahertz. These are licensed radios, usually used by operators for backhauling. And now the millimeter wave, which is 60, 70, 80 gigahertz frequency. These frequencies became very popular recently, in particular with the announcements made by Facebook and made by Google that this is the connectivity technology for the future to provide gigabit capacity. And this is what we are going to talk. So the 60 gigahertz band is mostly used for densification and for short distances. This is not part of this webinar. But the 70, 80 gigahertz, this is where we are going to focus this time. So just to compare this frequency band to sub-6 frequencies, there is 10 times more spectrum than in E-band, 70, 80, the millimeter wave frequency, than in the sub-6 frequency, sub-6 bands. So this property allows to use a lot of channels that are available in the spectrum, while each channel can actually provide multi-gigabit speed. So this is why this frequency, why this millimeter wave technology is called fiber-like wireless, because it can carry a wireless capacity over a wireless spectrum. Now, the main limiting factor for the E-band frequencies or the V-band technology is handling with the rain. And this goes, this is actually happens on long distances. So in distances over 5 miles, the performance may degrade significantly when there is heavy rain. So when there is no rain or a light rain, a long-haul E-band link will deliver multi-gigabit capacity. In this case, we are talking about 2 gigabit. And when there is a heavy rain, the capacity will drop to a few tens or a few hundreds of megabits. Comparing it to the 5 gigahertz technology, 5 gigahertz technology is not able to carry such high capacities. It is just several tens or a few hundreds of megabits. On the other hand, it is not subject to rain attenuation. Okay, and you can see here the capacity of the 5 gigahertz radios remain pretty much the same in any rain condition. Now, when the light rain occurs and when heavy rain occurs, and this goes back to the service availability. So according to the models, industry standard models developed by ITU, 99% of the time there is either negligible or there is no rain or a light rain, so it has negligible effect on the attenuation. And for 1% of the time, annually, aggregated across the year, so it sums up to 3 days, there may be some rain. So heavy rain is about 0.1% of the time or less, and there is kind of a mid-range in between 1% to 0.1%. So 99% of the time, the performance of the E-band is not affected by the rain, and only for 3 days out of the 365 days a year, the performance will be affected. So,
Boris, let me stop you just for a second. We've got a lot of people from way up north. I've got 3 questions here about snow. So, if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. Snow has no effects on the E-band. The reason why rain has effects on the E-band radios is because of the size of the raindrops. So the size of the raindrops is actually proportional to millimeters, the size itself, and because of that, it absorbs millimeter wave radio energy. Yep. But no rain, no fog, no other issues, just the rain.
And by the way, there are also some questions on licensing this in Canada. I know you've got some slides on licensing later.
I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So now we've talked about how to achieve the capacity, and we've described the millimeter wave frequencies or the millimeter wave radios as an optional solution for achieving multi-gigabit capacity. But having the link disconnected is not over long distances. This is something that probably is not acceptable for most of the service providers. So how to solve the distance challenge? And now, if we look back into the performance of different technologies in providing capacity and different rain conditions, we'll find out that in light rain, there is no doubt the E-band outperforms sub-6 frequencies, but in heavy rain, 5 gigahertz radios or 5 gigahertz solution can provide reliable connectivity, even at low capacity than the E-band phone. So if we combine those 2 technologies in an integrated solution, we'll get a solution that is always on, and 99% of the time, 362 days a year, it will provide multi-gigabit capacity. So when there is no rain or light rain at long distances, the solution will operate using the traffic will go through the E-band radio and will provide multi-gigabit capacity. In this example, it's 2 gig. In case of the heavy rain, the solution will automatically switch to a 5 gigahertz radio and will handle the capacity that is achievable using the 5 gig, the sub-6 radio, which is several tens of megabits or a few hundreds of megabits.
Let me stop you just for a second, Boris. We had a couple of questions about how leaves and pine needles and that sort of thing block E-band because there could be some blockage. It's not like the Wi-Fi bands, the 5 gig bands. But do you want to talk just briefly about that for a second, or?
Yeah. So yeah, the line of sight. This is a line of sight technology, like all the line of sight, like pretty much all the radio technologies in the microwave band and in the millimeter wave band and in some sub-6 band. So it's a line of sight technology. You need to have clear line of sight to operate that. But comparing this spectrum, this solution, millimeter wave solution, to lower frequencies, the Fresnel zones, the clearance that you need to have is relatively low, much lower than in low frequency radios. So yes, it is the line of sight solution. The line of sight is required, but once you have the line of sight, you'll get your gigabit performance, no matter what. Okay, so coming back to this integrated solution, when there is no rain or light rain, 99% of the time, 362 days a year, the link will provide 2 gigabit per second full duplex capacity, and during heavy rain effects, aggregated to 3% of the time annually, the link will drop. The link will sense actually that the capacity the link performance degraded due to the rain attenuation, and we'll switch to a low-frequency radio and provide connectivity at lower capacity. But the link will be always connected and always on. So just to give you a better sense of what distances are achievable, assuming 99% availability and using the available rain models. So in New York, 99% of the time, this link can operate at the distance at about 6 miles. In London, it will go up to 7 miles, and in Denver, where the sky is blue and the grass is green, it can go up to 11 miles.
By the way, we had several people asking about Maine, so because it can rain a lot in Maine, and of course they can get their own data. But do you have any practical experience up there with any of your customers?
Yeah, so we have some links installed in Maine region, and we have some links installed in Washington, where
Washington State, yes.
Yeah, Washington State in Portland area, where they have this kind of liquid sun. Not at these distances, but it's just a matter of link planning, and we have the online tool to get the exact availability and the exact performance once you plug in the coordinate. So we'll share this information after the webinar, and together with the slide deck and the recording of the webinar, we'll share the link budget tool that the customers can actually get the exact performance of the radio in different regions. Yep.
And I'm going to stop you again. We had one very, very early question about going around hills and that sort of thing. But we've had an interesting question about what about rolling terrain, you know, low hills. Do you just build a tower higher, or what do you do? I mean, the engineers are very familiar with the 2 gig band for cellular.
Yeah, yeah. So the reason why you build high towers is because of the Fresnel zones, which narrows as you go up with the frequency. So it is very wide for the 2 gigahertz radios, and it is very, very narrow, just a couple of feet for E-band, for millimeter wave radios. So it should be line of sight, but once again, if you have a clear line of sight, the Fresnel zone is really, really narrow, so you don't need to build very massive high towers. Okay, so yeah, and we'll have, of course, the Q&A session after the presentation, and so I'll continue to, I'll come back to the slide. And we've talked about combining E-band radio with the sub-6, with the 5 gigahertz radio, but in general, this solution can be combined and can be overbuilt on top of any existing connection. So the E-band can be combined with the existing or with the new 5 gigahertz radio. It can be combined with the existing microwave link, and it can be combined with the low capacity wired connection. So in case the heavy rain will affect the E-band link, the radio is intelligent enough to switch traffic to any of those existing connections that are available or used currently in the site.
Boris, I had another couple of questions on going over water. How high up do you have to be to get across a big bay or river to not have burn off on the frequencies burying into the water? I think with the narrow band you don't have to go too high, but
yeah, so we have several installations in England, and we have several installations in UK. We have several installations here, and we have several installations in Eastern Europe that cross rivers and cross lakes. And since the antennas are very narrow, it is narrow 1 degree or half a degree, you don't have any issues with the reflections from the water. So you don't. It's unlike in other bands. The only effect that you have in this frequency is a range. So all other effects are negligible. Okay. So coming back to the slide, we talked that this solution can be can go on top of the existing any existing wireless or wired connection, and we are also coming out with a more integrated solution, which we call the dual link. That actually the E-band antenna combines two antennas, the E-band and the sub-6 5 GHz antenna. So in this case, only sub-6 radio is needed to be connected to our outdoor unit, because the antenna is already integrated. It saves space on the pole. It saves attachment fees, so you don't need additional antenna. The E-band is lightly licensed band, and the sub-6 radio is probably unlicensed. So there is no registration process. It means that you can go and install the link whenever you want. The alignment is simple, and for this concept, and this is a very important point, no additional networking gear is required, because all the switching, all the traffic switching in case of E-band degradation happens inside the ODU, so the ODU will automatically switch the traffic to the sub-6 to the backup link. And this is how it looks like. So the connection is pretty simple with the standard SMA cables, and that's pretty much it. In terms of the configuration, and this is a snapshot of the web GUI. So all you need to do is to assign the backup port, and it means to what Ethernet ports, and we have up to 4 Ethernet ports available in the radio. To what backup port the sub-6 or other connectivity solution is connected to, and you can define a capacity threshold. For this threshold, if the link senses that the E-band performance will go below this capacity, it will switch the traffic to the backup link. So in this case, for 85 megabits, if the E-band link senses that the performance of the E-band radio will go below 85 megabits per second, it will switch the traffic to the backup port. It goes together with all the embedded carrier networking functionality that we already have inside our product, and it has to do with everything is pure Ethernet, so it can be either copper or fiber, and all the mechanisms of quality of service, of resiliency, of security, of abuse prevention, management through SNMP, everything is already existent integrated into our radio, VLANs, and all that stuff. So it's just another feature that goes on top of that. This is an example of the link performance that we have in LA for 15 kilometers, which is roughly 9 miles. So this is a snapshot of the performance during this winter, and we had a pretty tough winter in California this year, a lot of rain. And as you can see, for this 2 months of the winter time, we had only 5 momentary modulation drops. The rest of the time, the link is stable, providing multi-gigabit capacity. So all in all, the performance is better than 99% availability. So we've talked about capacity. We've talked about how to get this capacity reliably over long distances. Now let's talk about the financing. And basically, there are 2 components of the financing part, the operational expenses, and due to the fact that the E-band is lightly licensed, here in the US, the registration fee is $75 per 10 years per link. So the registration process is online, and you get usually the license within 24 hours. Everything is online. Everything is simple and straightforward. So virtually there is no OpEx related to operating this solution. And for the CapEx, we have a lease program in the US for a US operator together with the Leaf Commercial Capital that actually eliminates the need in money down in the down payment. So no money down and low monthly payment, and this is actually enables operators to match the expenses with the revenue stream. So we have different lease options. We have, for example, we have a 24-month financing period that can go up to $10,000 that can be used to finance Siklu equipment with the interest rate of 3.9% and the monthly payment of $433. And we have, for example, a 36-month financing period for $25,000 of Siklu equipment with the same interest rate with the monthly payment of $721. So this program is available. It's very simple. Single pager is needed to apply to get it, and it's handled by Leaf Commercial Capital. It's available for U.S. operators. So we've talked about capacity, we've talked about the distance, we've talked about the financing. I'd like to add a couple of words about what we do in Siklu. Siklu is, we are a millimeter wave vendor company. We are leading the market for 4 years in a row. We have the largest install base. And most of our applications are fiber extension. So it has to do with the campus connectivity. So there is a fiber at some place and it can be extended with our technology to other buildings. Also, our clients, service providers, use our equipment for business broadband delivery, for mobile backhaul as well. We have a very interesting market that is ramping up really, really fast for video surveillance and even for gigabit to the home. So our vision is that we are capable of providing multi-gigabit capacity to virtually any location. It can be office, it can be MDU, it can be tower, it can be small single-family home or street furniture. This is what we do. And just to sum up the webinar, we've introduced and talked about the performance of a long-haul multi-gigabit solution that can be fast and easy deployed without any special skills related to microwave or wireless. And together with the financing program, we enable our customers to match expenses to revenues, and in that way to eliminate the risk of the installation. So this is it. I assume that there are questions.
Oh, there are a lot of questions, and they're very, very good ones. Just as an aside, is that at the magazine, we've been paying special attention to San Francisco, where some fairly large buildings are being hooked up. They're kind of like the holes in a more fiber-based network, and in Boston, where relatively small buildings. The classic residential structure in Boston is always in the neighborhoods has been what the Bostonians call a triple-decker. It's 3 apartments. Sometimes they've been subdivided to 6, and there might be an apartment, might be a similar building next door, and you might have one radio for both. I know WebPass has done some of that. So when we talk about costs, how many actual customers in a building do you need to justify the wireless where you haven't been able to bring fiber in or really good coax in?
Yeah, so this is a good question, and it goes down to the business model and the operational efficiency. For the MDUs, this solution is very, very cost-effective, and it makes the cost equation work even for several apartments connected. I think it is well below 10 apartments per building to make the business case work. But once again, it can you know, it depends on the ROI, it depends on the operational efficiency, it depends how the installation is being handled, but it is way below 10 apartments per building to make the business case work to provide gigabit speeds to the MDU.
Now, take a rural area. A typical use for this, a typical scenario would be you've got a good network in the town center. You maybe have 600 or 800 premises covered fairly well with fiber or hybrid fiber coax system, but you've got people out on the road extending out 15, 20 miles that have never been served at all. They get a little video satellite dish, but that's about it. What can you envision there? I mean, you could have a link as long as 10 miles, less reliability. You got to decide whether you have shorter links. If you go in and serve a cluster of 3 or 4 homes that are very close together, what do the radios look like? What are you talking about there, just in broad outline?
Okay, so the question is about how to serve more distant community than 22 the distances go beyond 10 miles. So we don't fight physics, so you can stretch the event performance to go to 20 miles. What you can do is to have a kind of daisy chain topology. So you break this 20 miles into smaller segments, and you do daisy chain of several links. So this is maybe one solution that I can think of using E-band radios.
Yep. And what about who actually does the work? I mean, you obviously work through bigger deployers, but let's say a smaller deployer or even a community wants to get involved here. Can you work with their consultant? Do you recommend companies that might be in the area to install it? How do people get at this and get a good job? I mean, this is a great technology, but you may not have great installers everywhere. People that overpromise, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So just to illustrate the simplicity of installation, we have a customer in London School District that approached us on Twitter and bought a couple of radios and watched an installation video on YouTube and did it by himself. And he's from the IT department of the school district. So the technology is easy to deploy, and we have a lot of nuts and whistles to simplify the installation, the alignment process, and how to calculate the RSSI and how to meet the exact value. So we did a lot of things in our product to simplify the installation process. To the part of the question, who should do that? So we mainly work with the service providers and with the integrators, depends on the project. And we also have a dedicated program for consultants to encourage them to have this solution in their toolkit.
Okay. You're gonna see this on the question list later, but I just couldn't resist. A town with 85 residences across a 6x6 mile. That's 36 square mile, 85 residences. So 2.5 residences per mile. What can they do? Is this right for them? Is this plus a combination of other things right for them? Obviously, a small community. And I'm not sure how far from a point of presence they are that they can get connected to the outside world, but probably available for that small amount of bandwidth they need.
Okay, so I think that this solution is a perfect match for them, and our vision is that E-band and wireless technology, in particular the one that is capable of carrying multi-gigabit speeds, is needed to extend the fiber. We are not here to fight the fiber, we are here to extend the fiber. So if there is a fiber POP presence in the range that is that can be achieved using E-band technology. So this fiber can be extended to virtually any location that has a line of sight. Okay, so I'll be glad to get the exact coordinates and to work to suggest a solution for this community and to illustrate how E-band can be used there to connect those homes.
Yeah, a few questions about people up in high mountain country, Four Corners region in the United States, up in the Rockies. Microwave is not uncommon or unknown there. They got a lot of snow. They got a lot of rain. The links are difficult to manage, of course, because they're not always as pure Ethernet as they might be. But what do you think in areas like that are really severe? Is this something that you can rely on as a distributed network?
Yeah, so we had one of our customers based in New York City, and he just wrote us a note after Hurricane Sandy hit the city and hit the coast.
Yeah.
And he said that everything went down except for your radio. We have a customer testimonial for that. So it's just a matter of if the link is properly installed and properly planned. Microwave works. So and millimeter wave is a part of the wireless technology. So this technology works. And it's just a matter of appropriate planning, and that's it. So if the link is planned right, and if it is located at the appropriate mounting on the appropriate mounting structure, and if it is aligned correctly, it should work. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't.
Yeah, talk a little bit about cellular backhaul. We're getting calls on that as well, both because of FirstNet and because of wide use of cellular phones, that sort of thing. The cellular backhaul is used to hooking up to Ethernet somehow, sometimes SONET, but usually Ethernet. And will the existing cellular equipment generally see your equipment as just another Ethernet thing to bounce the signal over to the next cell tower and get some backhaul up there?
Yeah. So the cellular networks. I mean, the base station is an access to the base stations that provide cellular coverage is an access part of this network.
Yeah.
And those base stations should be connected to the core network. And this portion of this network is called the backhaul, mobile backhaul. And we have a lot of installations of our equipment to those network segments. So several use cases is in some cases the only event radio is used there to backhaul the base station. In some cases the E-band is a kind of backup for the fiber connection that is already available there.
Yes.
And in some cases it's an overbuild over the existing microwave radio such that the high priority traffic like voice and signaling goes through the traditional microwave, which is, for example, at lower frequencies, is not capable of providing high capacity, but is not subject to brain fading, and all the web and all the heavy traffic, web and video, go through the E-band link. So it's kind of overbuilt solution. It uses the same principle that we've discussed here. And since everything is Ethernet these days, switching and making it, building it over the top, it's straightforward. So just plug in and that's it.
Yeah. What about backhaul to fiber solutions? You know, you got 5 or 6 streets worth of houses, maybe 300 or so. You've got a bank downtown, some businesses. Maybe you have an easy backhaul solution through a hardwired circuit, you know, fiber or copper. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need redundancy for the business. You have another So this could be a wireless, could be a redundancy. Are people doing that? Have you got some examples out in the rural areas?
Well, yeah, so we have a fiber connection available in the radio, so you can directly plug in fiber. And we are coming up with the 5 gigabit full duplex product that is definitely comparable with the fiber capacity just over the air. We have a lot of rural, urban or suburban customers. WebPass is one example. They implement what we call hybrid fiber wireless network. So they use the backbone, fiber backbone, and they use our wireless equipment to do the densification, to get to the MDUs, to get to the enterprise customers from this fiber backbone.
Okay. Let me talk, there's 3 or 4 questions bearing on this in different ways, but the issue basically is trees. Either you've got a lot of growth around in a traditional neighborhood, and we've certainly seen these kinds of antennas up on the roofs of some of the homes, and maybe serving a few homes in the neighborhood, but also you're on a rural stretch of road that's very curvy. You might have 2 or 3 customers a mile. You really need 4 or 5 plus a subsidy to think about fiber, or hybrid fiber coax might have been there. It doesn't work now. Do you want to force fit? Is it a force fit to put this technology in a place like that, or should you just say, look, no, you're better off with a hardwired solution in a lot of those situations, and you got to know when, as you say in the United States, when to fish and when to cut bait.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, so that's a good question, and in my vision, there is no wireless without fiber, but in some cases, the fiber is not going to be there. So you need a good case to bring fiber in, and if you don't have a good case to do that, you'll still be unconnected. So in this case, the only available solution is to use wireless. And once you use wireless, you see the demand, and eventually there is no risk associated with this build out, because there is no financial risk because you can use the lease program, and there is no operational risk. So you can bring this gigabit or multi-gigabit connectivity to your community, and actually not anticipate the demand, actually to see the demand, and actually to see what effect this multi-gigabit connectivity brings to your community today, now. Okay? And then you can consider bringing more fiber if there is a demand. You can consider to shorten the link and do some limited fiber deployment. But you already start servicing your community with this type of solution.
Yeah. Now, judging from the licensing data over at the FCC, by the way, we at Magazines love the idea of lightly licensed because there's a footprint that we can actually track. You've got about a third of the market, but you have plenty of competitors in different things, and everyone's claiming very, very quick deployment, and we've seen it. There's one example, a community that had about 60% coverage with the fiber network. It was going to take another 2 years to get the rest out, and within a couple of weeks they put in wireless for most of the remainder. It saved them a lot of marketing costs. It got them some quick revenue, but they owned the poles. But someone else told me, they said, no, it took us 3 months to negotiate use of the electric telephone, the telephone poles, the electricity poles, but it only took us a couple of days to install these things up there. Is that what really happens normally, or can it be weekish fast rather than yearish fast?
Yeah, so yeah, that's a great question. And just before answering the question, the figures from, it is E-band is a lightly licensed band, and there are figures that can be downloaded from the FCC database. And the data for 2015 and 2016 is that 42% of all the registered links during these 2 years belong to Siklu. And in 2016, more than 70%, 70% of all the registered our equipment, and for the installation and the speed of deployment. So we just announced a project in Santa Cruz that we work together with the city, and usually it is what it's called the triple P, the public-private partnership.
Yeah.
This is not the first project that we do. We also announced a project in Kansas City, but the common things in those kind of projects that you need to have 3 parts in order to success. One is that the city should be interested in bringing gigabit to its citizens, to the city, and should help the service providers to resolve all those issues right away, and access rights, and etc. And the second part, and the most important part, is the service provider that should take advantage of cooperating with the city and the technology. And so we are the technology together with the available fiber. So some details about the Santa Cruz project. We announced the project in late April, and we brought, together with the city of Santa Cruz and the Cruz.io, the local service provider there, they brought gigabit access to 17 new locations, providing access to more than 6,000 people in community centers, in low-income family homes, in MDUs, and it took them less than 2 months to do that. So serving 17 locations, providing gigabit service in less than 2 months.
And by the way, I saw I went out on a deployment in Boston finally this spring, and it was a hop of about half a mile, and went from a rooftop where there was an existing radio, and they put another antenna up, and then we got into their station wagon, went over to the target place that was getting serviced. They went up to the roof. They had been up there to make sure that there was a source of electric power. There was an outlet. They say sometimes they have to put one in on a little mast to keep it above the local snow line, so to speak. But basically, it was a 3-hour job, and I was shocked. I had reserved the entire day. They said, "Nah, it's 3 or 4 hours," and it was. Are they all that easy? I mean, rural areas are, they're less complicated, but longer distances. You want to go out and do a site survey first, set up a mast so that you can site the antenna and all that sort of thing. What does it really take to put one link in, one hop?
So it is, I think, half a day for long distances. For rural areas, this is something that can be achieved. We had projects in the suburban areas connecting single-family homes that the installation team of 2 people did 7 homes a day. 7 homes a day connecting gigabit service.
Not bad. Not bad. Can you talk a little bit, actually, can you mention, I know it's highly variable given the circumstance, but what does one link cost? Or a radio over to another, is there a range there? Yeah, so it depends on the project site, and if it is one or 2 links, it's one cost, and if it's more larger project, is higher cost. Depends on the capacity, depends on the antenna type. So there are a lot of variables, but this is something that starts from up from $3,000 and can go up to
to higher cost. So it really depends on the project variables.
Yeah. And you talked about antenna size, but I'm getting questions on them anyway. These are very, very small antennas. They actually coexist on poles very, very well. But do you have some exact measurements for people in terms of weight and antenna size for a 2-mile radio and a 10-mile radio?
Yeah, so we have two types of antennas, 1 footer and 2 feet antennas. The total weight of the radio with the 1 footer is about 8 pounds, 8-9 pounds, and the total weight of the radio with the 2 footer is about 15 pounds.
Yeah, and this is a lovely thing to think about because it doesn't require 2 people to handle.
Right. So 1 footer can be just a single person that goes up to the tower can handle that without any lifts or without any special equipment. So it is really, really easy in that sense.
Yeah.
And saves a lot of cost, by the way, because lift can cost a lot of money to rent.
Yeah. In line with the cost, a couple of questions asked. Basically, when you want to go point to multi-point, it's obviously not like cellular, but is point to multi-point feasible? When is it not feasible?
Okay, so for the E-band, the solution to shoot from a single POP location to different other locations is a kind of multi-point to point. So, I mean, you can co-locate several radios on the same location, and in these frequencies you don't need to do any special thing to do that because you have a very narrow antenna beam, so you have a very high spatial separation, and you have a lot of channels, and you have several polarizations as well, 2 polarizations as well. So we have installation of about 12 links at a single location that provide gigabit capacity. Each link provides gigabit capacity. In V-band, it's a different story, and we are working on point-to-multi-point solution there. So it will be pretty much like
shorter wavelengths we're talking about here, higher frequencies.
Yeah, so it will be up to several hundreds of meters, but it will have a point-to-multi-point solution. Yet each radio will be narrow beam, so it will still be immune to interference, but this is something down the road.
Yep. In very, very hilly areas, you don't want to get shadowed by a mountain or something like that. Obviously, you could put a relay antenna on the mountain. We used to do that with cable TV. But any particular problem when you're putting up a high guy-wired tower and you stick the 2-foot antenna on there? Is that doable to go over mountains and that sort of thing?
So if you have line of sight and you have a standard stable mast, you don't need to have any problem. And we had several installations, quite some installations that we've done in Russia, I think, on the 70-meter masts. Yeah. So we put 2 footers on those locations, and for a cellular operator to serve as a backhaul.
Yeah, and you put an antenna cone on there just to keep the dish from catching the wind, and you have it anyway. It's more or less standard equipment, but and you've got that thing fairly high up in a tall tower to get your line of sight. So no different. The cellular installers can do this sort of thing.
Right. So it goes back to proper installation, and you can see towers with even larger antennas. I mean, 3-footers and 4-footers. So it's something that is doable.
Yeah.
And in that sense, our equipment is smaller. So the E-band, the antennas are much smaller, so it produces less weight. And
And we're talking normal and good local engineering knows about the local condition, the local wind, the local weather, and generally knows about Ethernet, and you can be a trusted vendor. People can use this technology and get used to it without drastic relearning of what they do locally anyway.
Yeah, so we have about 40,000, more than 40,000 units deployed worldwide.
Yeah.
And we have calculated MTBF, mean time between failures, of more than 90 years, more than 90 years. And this is based on the actual statistics of the units returned and everything. So, yeah. Okay.
And I'm just checking here. I think we've got them all. There's still 100 people online, by the way. So if you have any more questions, folks, just ask. But we can close it off fairly quickly now. I'm just checking through here. Oh, I know. You did mention that you had, in response to another question, that you do have vendor and consultant arrangements. If a consultant is interested in what you're doing, you're already dealing with consultants, so you can set up agreements fairly quickly if you
right.
them.
So we have our template agreement, and I encourage consultants to contact me, and you have my contact details here, and we'll take it from there. So
okay. And we will be, you folks are going to get an email when you, after you sign off the next day or so. We'll have links to the full archive webinar, but also the PowerPoint, I think, Boris. And is there anything else you want to tell them before we break away?
So we have a lot of applications of millimeter wave technology, and all in all, this concept of combining fiber and fiber-like wireless, the millimeter wave, is gaining a lot of traction recently. So it's becoming really mainstream. So rural is one of the applications. It can be used as infrastructure for the smart city to extend the existing fiber, and of course, it can be used for a service provider to reach more customers, in particular for MDUs, where the business case is straightforward. So this technology is being used by Google and by Facebook. So I encourage you to give it a try and to bring gigabit to your community, to your city.
And I must say, speaking as the magazine editor, one of the magazine editors, this is a fascinating technology simply because it's fairly cheap, fairly easy. You can get that last 20% of the tough to serve people in your footprint into the network. You can market to them. You can have a business plan that says, look, we're going to get you over to fiber in 3 or 4 years, or we'll bootstrap. And meanwhile, you can leave all these links in place as a backup. Very low maintenance. So it's basically it improves the business case for broadband. Whether it's fiber, whether it's DOCSIS 3.1, which may or may not be fiber, whether it's earlier versions of DOCSIS, earlier version of copper. It's one more thing to consider if your business plan for putting in broadband in the community was close but no cigar 2 years ago. This kind of technology, other technologies, now may push you over the line where you say, aha! We can now do this, and we encourage everyone to think that way. Rethink your business plans, rethink what you want to do, rethink what's possible. It's a very exciting time. There's broadband, even in rural areas, is cheaper than you thought. It's not necessarily cheap. It's not necessarily easy. You have to be careful or you lose your shirt. But we're in a very, very exciting time with this now. So much of this technology coming through, and it's very easy to manage using standard Ethernet tools, which, believe it or not, are becoming more standard. And I do IEEE committee work, and if they could figure out a way to attach a kitchen sink to the network, they would be a kitchen sink API. I, as a matter of fact, saw one over at MIT just a few weeks ago, a kitchen sink that is part of the Internet of Things. But we're in that kind of an age. This is technology that you really should consider. And I thank you very, very much, Boris, for bringing it to our readers. And thank you very, very much for helping make this technology popular in the world. It's a great job. And I know it's a great job because we still have about half of our attendees still on the line. But we'll end the webinar now. If there's any last final question you have, and then we'll get out of here.